welcome to this video. Each time that I go over my videos, there's always bits that I want to interject, add in, and they're never quite complete or quite the way that I would have wanted them to be. So based on the last videos that I did, which were roughly around the actual rebirthing process and the rebirth of Jesus, the Jesus story, and whether Mary was the true prophet or not, I want to come back and just add in and work on a few things there. I think there's another thing that I want to emphasize as well, and that is in some way that for me what we're talking about when we talk about the awakened state, it's actually really that's something very simple, and it is what I've already tried to indicate, that we are simply talking about coming out of ego mind, because when we're in ego machinations or just mental constructs, it's at those points where everything has its own vibration. So when we're connecting and caught up in mental streams, then we're resonating, vibrating at a different level. Now in the 31 planes, there's the human realm, where I explained that was where a lot of us are a lot of the time, and we're relatively present. We're not in those stages caught up in mental streams particularly, and then it's a scale. So there's the first 11 planes, and then one drops into jhana, which is a deeper concentration of mind. And below the human level, there's another 4 levels, which is like animals, hungry ghosts. There's another one with a Pali name, I think, and the hell realms as well. And so they're also different grades of how much we're caught up in mental structures, streams. And obviously the hell realms right at the bottom, there when we're really caught up in intensive feelings and thoughts, and we're really locked into mental tracks, and we're almost unaware of everything that is all around us and about us. And this is a very dynamic model, we're shifting in and out of these different layers of how much we're caught up in the mind. And then when we're in the human level, that's kind of where we feel reasonably present to the world around us. And then there are moments when we can be even more deeply connected, when we're watching that beautiful night sky, the rainbow, the bark of a tree, when we hear the song of a bird. And it's really, I'm talking mainly, I'm giving examples which are external examples on purpose, because it sort of pulls us a little bit out of ourselves and really makes us pay attention to the outer sphere, the outer realm. And that's when we're sort of edging towards the 4 great kings, which is the 6th plane of existence. So in one way it's really simple, because all we're talking about is being totally present. And this is, for me, what the Buddha was looking at when he wanted to end the suffering within the human condition. He just wanted it to be able to come clean out of the ego mind and to be totally present. And then the more and more we resonate with that space of being more and more present, the more and more we come into the state of awakened mind. Now, to come into that space, I talked about that in the last talks as well. So there was this sense of the vibration internally being harmonized. That is to say that physical, emotional and mental streams, vibrations are not exactly the same, but they can attune and resonate with each other. So at that point, the yogi has this moment of opportunity where he can then open up the field of awareness to things around him. And this is a choice which takes us away from the perhaps more traditional stream of entering down or up through the jhanas, which are more and more deeper levels of concentration of the mind. So when we open up to the sphere space that is all around us, then we become aware of the vibration that is internal and the vibration that is external. And as these start to come into a harmonious vibration within themselves, that is the resonance that starts to open up the third eye, and that's the intensity that can be experienced when we go through this practice. And this resonance, as I already explained in the last video, can be intense as the third eye starts to open, as it vibrates in tune with the internal and external sphere, and that can sort of send us off the path because we're not comfortable in that space. But as we become more and more comfortable in experiencing this, let's call it vibrational intensity, then we can stay with it, let it happen, and then there's an intensity that arrives at the crown chakra, and this is the intensity of the crown chakra is the contact with the membrane, the energetic membrane, the sphere that I like to call it as well. And that's the process. And then if we're going to come into the awakened state, then we have to be able to stay and hold this resonance, stay and hold this awareness of the two internal and external spheres. And then this comes down, and this sensation of coming down sort of feels like the energy is moving back down through Bindu. Bindu is the point where the Brahmins leave a tuft of hair at the back of the head. And so as we manage to stay with this resonance, slowly that comes down. And as we come out of the sphere, it is then that we have a vision, this double vision, because we're holding the internal and the external spheres together, and we see the world around us with a sense of clarity and presence that we will not have experienced before. And then the rebirthing, as I talked about, can continue, and the key to allowing the sphincter or the sphere to reopen up and to allow the shoulders to pass, that is the key, is the heart. That's where the focus is the heart, as we pass down through the heart chakra and we come resting again at the waist. And then, as I talked about there, in order to pass the pelvic bowl, then the key is the base chakra and also the crown chakra. Or perhaps, I say or perhaps because I think I've experienced it in different ways at different times, just an awareness of the whole chakra column, and that allows the pelvic bowl to come out through the energetic membrane. Now, normally we would assume that that was the rebirth, because we've come out of the womb, we've come through the hymen layer. However, another common experience that we can have at this stage is we're present, and yet everything seems a little bit stark. It's just we're awake, we're out, and we're also having to deal with the fact that there's maybe difficult holdings, difficult emotions that are there, noises or things that might be aggravating or agitating towards us from the external world, feelings of the cushion under my bum or whatever it is. And to be totally present and awake to what is here and now doesn't necessarily mean that it's a comfortable space. However, at a certain moment, if we can come into a space of total acceptance with what is here and now in this moment, then that's the moment where the heart knot can open. We have passed down through the heart. This is true. But the yogic scriptures all talk about the great heart knot. Not all, some speak about the great heart knot. And when we really are able to accept where we are in this moment, the way it is, just as it is, then from that space of presence, then the heart knot opens. And this is the energy coming back up. And this is actually the energy and the time in terms of the story of Jesus Christ. So Mary sees the empty tomb, she's present, and she sees the emptiness of all those mental streams and ego. But also there's another element of emptiness where there is a certain feeling of the emptiness, stark reality of this moment. The analogy that I like to make to reflect this idea is from the Matrix film, where Neo, he's taken the red pill, I think it's the red pill he takes, and he comes out and then he's taken onto the ship. So he is now awake, but when he comes out, the ship is grey, it's cold, the food is bland, you know, life seems quite hard and stark. But then he falls in love with Trinity. So another way, Trinity is third eye, crown chakra, Bindu chakra. That's a Trinity. And when he falls in love with Trinity, then everything changes, then there's meaning, and then everything makes sense. So in the same way, when the heart chakra opens in this way, then all of a sudden the starkness dissipates and we move much more deeper into this sense of being present and awake. We're moving up through the planes of existence now, from the four great kings into some of the higher planes. And the 10th plane, I think it's called delight in creation. So this is really when the heart chakra is fully open, and everything that we look at and everything that we see and witness is a delight. You know, I mean, just the grain of wood, the weave of a top, whatever it is that our eyes alight upon, becomes beatific and quite amazing. And we're now very much resonating in harmony with the internal world and the external world. The last layer, the last plane, the 11th plane, is called controllers of others' creations. And my interpretation of this plane is that even at this level, when people around us are creating, like throwing anger or disappointment or wanting from us, we're in control of this situation and we see it as it is. We see the people that they have their own baggage, their own issues, they're caught up in mental straits, and we're not contaminated by that. Normally we're all bouncing off each other and being contaminated by the energies of the other people, but in the 11th plane we're no longer even contaminated by external factors. We are the controllers of the creations that come from others. And this is the total awakened mind. And so to come back, this is also when the heart knot opens. This is the resurrection of Christ. And this is when Jesus is at his most powerful present moment in the New Testament. He's been resurrected, and I think that is the opening of the heart knot. I mean, interesting little segue is that, you know, in India a long time ago there were many yogis going to the caves and going into deep practices, and whilst today there's still the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali and other such teachers that have been preserved, there were many yogis. This is according to the yoga tradition book by, forgive me, I forget the name. I think it's in my references on my webpage. And the yogis back then, they'd go to the mountains and they'd often, or some of them would, write down sutras which would then be kept by some of the villagers who were in the local area. And over time, like nearly all, if not most of all these sutras were lost. And these yogis would all talk about their own individual particular experience of heightened states of awareness, spiritual experiences, awakened states, etc., etc. And in those texts, there are some mention of 9 chakras in some of the yogic literature that has survived, and also this idea of the great heart knot, and I think the 3 gates, the 3 knots, and then the great heart knot. So first knot is this tension here through the passage through the opening of the membrane as we go through with the crown chakra, and so that's the first knot, lock, gate, whatever, comes down to here. Then there's the second one as we open up and through the connection with the heart and move down to the waist. Then there's the third one as the pelvic floor, pelvic basin comes through, and then there's the great heart knot still to be opened. And also I just want to point out that there is a certain sense that these cycles need to keep on circulating as we go through these experiences, and often going through the 3 gates, the 3 knots, and then the opening of the heart knot. It also to my own surprise as well, didn't mean that I was a Buddha. It just meant that I was able to dip into those higher spaces of awakened mind, and then one comes back into more clouded, less clear, less present modes of functioning in the world, and especially getting still caught up in mental streams, mentation. So this is like a addendum to the videos I've done on the rebirthing and was Jesus the true prophet, and hopefully that makes things more clear and also makes sense. So thanks for watching this one.